What is the most disgusting thing you have experienced? I drove taxis when I was at university many years ago. I picked up a group of 4 young women preloaded and ready to party. They were passing around a big 2-liter bottle of rum and coke when a girl sitting behind me spewed all over me. Pizza, rum, coke, and stomach acid all over my canary yellow uniform shirt. They gave me 20 to clean myself up in addition to the fare. I once chugged a Martinelli and binged banana cream pie. 40 minutes later I was projectile vomiting and having involuntary diarrhea at the exact same time. We had a cadaver dissection, and I went from the 3rd floor to the 2nd for a bathroom break. I came back to pandemonium, the lift broke and the 300-pound cadaver fell onto the other 2 below, and onto the nursing student it spilled a large amount of juices everywhere on a warm day, and several students had thrown up. Paramedic here had a 400 lb woman fused to her leather love seat by her own defecation. When we lifted her up to pry her from the seat cushions, her skin tore open and maggots poured out of her legs along with shit, blood, and puss. My best friend and I both had food poisoning at the same time with one bathroom. She literally shoved me off the toilet so she could shit on top my shit. Woke up to the placenta of my pregnant cat dragging across my face. She had gone into labor at like 3 a.m. and was freaking out trying to get me up. It was like sticking out of her. I almost threw up. Working in a psych hospital, a patient stripped naked, took a massive dump on the floor. She then straddled it and began to ride it like she was an overacting porn star. She eventually started to spread it all over her body, in her hair, mouth, everywhere, to the point that she was completely covered like she had just finished one of those Tough Mudder races. Same patient in a separate incident popped her eye out with a plastic spoon. I got really sick in the middle of the night at a hotel far from home. I also had an early flight the next morning. Still not sure if food poisoning or an intestinal bug. I was so sick I laid on the bathroom floor and couldn't get back up because I was so tired and dehydrated. I couldn't even keep down tap water. I couldn't even make it to the tub. Everything was coming out of every orifice again and again. I was so weak I just laid on the bathroom floor naked for a couple of hours in my own stuff. That foul, hot, coppery smell was everywhere. I gathered myself together a few hours later, cleaned up the bathroom, took a shower, and proceeded to collapse at the front desk when checking out. When the paramedics and fire came, they stood around where I landed in the lobby and said that I didn't look sick. I looked up at them with what must have been an incredibly miserable face, proceeded to barf expertly into a coffee cup I'd been holding, and boy, they sprung into action in a big way. In my apartment a few years back, my kitchen sink got clogged or something and wouldn't go down. Of course the apartment folks wouldn't come fix it in a timely manner, so I did what any dude would do, fix it myself. Get under the sink and start tinkering, got sprayed pretty good with some of the dankest water ever, but I got it done. Find out the next day we all had shit sewer water back up into our sinks for some reason, and the liquid I got sprayed with was my neighbor's shit and piss. Thought it tasted weird. Probably not the most disgusting, but recently I had to clean up a man's feces inside the store I work at. I even watched the video. You could tell he was headed for the bathroom, but then stopped for a second and just shit himself. Now, this is the part that irritates me. He didn't say a damn word to anybody, nor did he go to the bathroom and wipe. He just went about shopping like he didn't just shit himself. Taking a dump in a porta potty, only to have the bacteria-infested poop water from all of the people I work with splash into my bum hole. I hit a dead rotting roo while driving one night. The bloody thing exploded, there were chunks of it all over the undercarriage, and it stank to high heaven. Washing rotten dead roo off your undercarriage with a pressure washer is probably one of the grossest things I have ever had to do. RN here. Years ago, I was working ER, and EMS brought in this old guy who was living in a shack in the desert. He became immobile at some point, and people would check on him every once in a while to bring him food water. Well, over time with incontinence, consistent pressure from immobility, malnutrition, and no hygiene, he developed wounds that went on to devour the tissues of his entire butt, perineum, and genital areas. Like, it was all gone. You could see straight into his pelvis. You could not identify exit points for urethra or anus. It was astonishing. Just the total lack of tissue and extent of rotting wound. My jaw involuntarily dropped when I pulled the covers to do my initial assessment. I'd never seen anything like it. Of course the smell was atrocious too. There was nothing we could do in the ER other than get him hydrated, figure out if he was septic, get him comfy, and consult specialists. Advanced wound care can do incredible things, but I have no idea what happened to that guy. Considering the extent of his wounds and his overall condition and age, I assume he died relatively soon thereafter. One time, I was giving a guy I was dating a blowjob, and when he finished it was so fucking gross. I've never experienced anything like it before or after. His cum's consistency was all chunky, like when you start to get a cold, but your mucus isn't quite pure liquid yet, and it tasted like what I'd imagine cleaning products taste like. It was the most disgusting thing I've tasted, and I never ever did that with him again. He was doing hard drugs, but I didn't know it at the time. I guess doing that shit makes it the opposite of what it tastes like when a guy eats really healthy. I've seen a grown woman squat down and take a shit on the ground in the crowd at a music festival. I once saw a kid in middle school eat a moldy pizza that was in the trash for like 5. A seagull flew low over me, and for some reason I looked up to follow it. It shat directly in my left eye. I was in a very crowded area, and it took me between 5 and 10 minutes to push through the crowd to the nearest bathroom. You cannot comprehend the rage I felt toward oblivious, dawdling people in front of me. I could feel the grit under my eyelid. When I got to the bathroom, it was one of those low-flow, auto-shut-off hand sensor faucets. I could barely gather enough water to submerge my eye in my cup hand. I was probably in there for a half hour desperately rinsing. Minus 810 with rice. On a busy plaza in Changsha, China, a granny pulled down her pants, squatted, took a shit, got up, pulled up her pants, and then disappeared into the crowd like Hannibal at the end of The Silence of the Lambs. The first time I was in position to give a guy a blowjob, he was uncircumcised and didn't clean himself properly. The smell was so bad I threw up. I have nothing against men who are uncircumcised. They just have to know personal hygiene. Rotten potatoes.